Just to give a quick introduction of Gujarat Print Pack, although Shriram covered it well, we manufacture pressure sensitive labels, we make shrink sleeves, in-mold labels, mono cartons, shipper boxes, and soon we are about to venture into short-run laminates and pouches. So that's one project that we are quite keen on. Okay. Just talking a little bit on inks, because this is Ink Week, and inks often they often take a backstage for printers. They're usually not the primary concern for most of us printers and converters. And even looking back in history, paper has always, alternatives to paper have always been readily available. The Egyptian civilization, they used papyrus, the Mohenjo-daro had clay tablets, the cavemen drew on rocks, and even the ancient Chinese, they started drawings on cotton far before they invented the paper. So paper alternatives are plentiful, but really you cannot replace inks. Now, even though printers, we are not concerned about inks, but we do need to appreciate that the reason we are not too concerned about them is the high level of standardization and the high level of quality which most of our ink manufacturers maintain. So I would like to start off my session by giving my thanks to all of our ink manufacturers and suppliers. What we do really would not be possible without you. So today, through my presentation, I would really like to highlight the importance of innovation and standardization. So these are two things which are really vital with inks. Through innovation, you grasp, I like to say that through innovation, you grasp the hearts of your clients, and through standardization, you ensure that they don't grasp your wallets. So my first show and tell is the dilemma that one of our leading apparel companies faced. Becoming a leader has not been easy for them. Billions of rupees have been spent, thousands of employees, decades of building trust have brought them to this stage. And they've invested a tremendous amount of time and money into building this brand and building its recognition around the globe. They also work in an industry with some of the toughest competition. Their customers, the end users, have nearly infinite options when it comes to apparel. But at the same time, the customers also are very quality and value conscious. Any perceived loss of the quality or of the value, it can lead to a very quick loss of the customer loyalty. So this, and also at the same time, the industry is notoriously easy and lucrative for copycats. So for a company that has built their values, their foundations on brand value, the greatest fear is that of counterfeit. And it can be highly off-putting for their own customers to see that the apparel that they bought is being sold at a fraction of the value on a black market or on the side of the street. So, and this is really where the customer can tap into the power of printing and the power of inks and the innovation in our industry. So there are plethora of options available to ward off counterfeiters. So here the first one you have is coin reactive inks, which remain invisible until they are rubbed by a coin. These type of inks deploy a special metal reactive compound, an additive, which enables the darkening of the pigment when rubbed with a metal. Next, we have a range of invisible inks in which the pigments remain dormant until activated by a light with a special wavelength. The third thing with pressure sensitive labels, there are special categories of inks which allow the ink to be compatible with adhesives. So this grade of ink, it enables the creation of void labels, which are a quite effective overt counterfeit feature. Now, an additional line of defense, it can come from specialty pigments. These patented pigments, you can only procure them with sophisticated purchase agreements, which make them highly secure. These are contracts between the printer, the end buyer, and the manufacturer of the pigments. Then you also have photochromic and thermochromic inks. These are inks, and so with these inks, the color changes only when they are exposed to specific temperatures or specific wavelengths of light, for example, UV light or invisible light. And then last but not the least, we have scratch-off inks, which can provide a quite quick visual deterrent for any text or data that maybe it's not printed and that may be printed underneath it. These special grades of inks have a built-in inhibitor, which basically prevents the ink from bonding with the substrate. Okay. So all of this, these specialty inks, this is what we put together into one label for the apparel company. It's a project well under process. You know, so all of these products that we have put together here, we hope that our customer can sleep peacefully at night. As you can see in this label, we've brought together a lot of security features. Starting from the top left corner, we have printed microtext, which requires a perfect coordination between the inks, the analoxes, the print pressure, and a lot more. Next, we have a pantogram, which uses a special fluorescent ink, and it only reveals the text under a specially ruled line drawing. Then we also have coin reactive inks and a special hologram, which also has to be customized. And again, it can only be supplied by a special contract. Further, we have some thermochromic inks, which lose color when rubbed by hand. These are specially customized to be reactive to 35 degrees Celsius, so that when you rub it with your thumb, the ink becomes invisible. Then we also have a photochromic element, which only displays the text when it is exposed to sunlight. Here we also have a special pigment, which is patented and manufactured by Merck. And then finally, we have a variable data QR code, which is hidden underneath the scratch-off ink. And of course, the QR code is linked to a database to allow for some security features. It also allows the end user, by scanning the QR code, the end user is able to verify the genuinity of the product. So with the combination of all of these, we have ensured that the customer is truly satisfied. But again, satisfaction is not enough. So in order to delight the customer, we have included a variable data QR code. And what this does is that it allows the customer to really interact with the manufacturer of the product, so that the brand owners, at the end of the day, the brand owners are able to collect valuable demographics information. And without collecting personal details and personal information, the brand owner can really tap into the data set on its customer and the way they behave, and they can really make some good marketing decisions based on this. And finally, standardization, which is what saves the money in your pockets. We of course know that standardization is the key to repeatability, and excuse me, and that repeatability is of course the key to profitability. So as a case study, I'll just share our own experience with setting up a good ink kitchen and trying to standardize the inks. The process, it really starts with setting the goal. So what is it that you want to achieve from an ink room standardization? And for this, we really had 3 goals. The first one was working with glued clientele. The key requirements are on color management and on repeatability. So that was the primary, pushing force for this. The second one was to reduce the machine time, the material wastage, as well as the resource wastage, which usually comes when we are trying to match a color on press, what we end up doing is we end up making multiple trials, wasting the time on the press. All of this can be eliminated by doing these going through these procedures offline. And the third is, of course, to improve the efficiencies. And the way that we set about achieving these goals is, the key thing when you want to do something like this is to really work with your ink suppliers. They know inks in and out. They know the ink kitchens in and out. They have experience implementing these kind of projects many times. So the first thing is to find a good supplier and to really work with them and take their support. The second is to really invest in the proper hardware and the proper software. So this can include the inventory management software, the spectrophotometer, the ink drawdown kits, and the curing solutions. And finally, the third key element, which sometimes we do not focus as much on, is the training. That's really the heart of ink standardization, the color management and ink standardization. And as with any new workflow, training is critical. And again, in this respect, our valuable suppliers, they can be our greatest assets. So that's it from my side. Shriram, thank you very much. I hope I've been able to add something worthwhile to this platform. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Shail. And again, a lot of takeaways.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something you've been doing. At your Mehsana factory, you've engaged in a substrate, ink, and varnish standardization project for a global company, you said. The customer had specification for 8 different grades of varnishes, more than 12 grades of substrates, and 3 grades of inks.
Right.
So you help them to bring this down to 2 grades of varnishes, 3 grades of substrate, and 1 grade of ink. Yeah. So how did you manage to do that?
So lots and lots of meetings and lots of trying to convince them, giving them presentations on this is the amount of savings. Unfortunately, sometimes it does come down to the amount of savings that you're able to pass on to your customers. And in this case, it was a significant savings, an amount which upper management could not say no to.
So is this because of the SOP or the standard operating procedures you have deployed? You mentioned third point in your presentation of training and mastering the tools and to deploy these tools. Are they all interconnected?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, with standardization, you get repeatability. And with repeatability and with ease of repeatability, you get savings on costs, savings on wastages and all of that. So certainly that's a part of it.
Okay. What is your training approach, Shail? We usually have one master printer, but the knowledge rarely trickles down, right?
Yeah, I agree, Shriram. That's a critical. Training is, of course, the way you move forward. There were times when, even in our own company, with my father having taken up this business, he was the one who traveled the world. He was the one who went to all the exhibitions. He knew everything. But then for it to trickle down, you need to have regular trainings. You need to have a standard operating procedure even for trainings. So that has been key for us, and we make it a point to have a training schedule for the upcoming year all well in advance, and we try to stick to it as much as possible.
Thank you, Shail. One more question, this time from Mansi Gupta. She's a young printing technologist in part of the PrintWeek team. Mansi asks, fashion garments, as you've said, are of course some of the most reproduced products. And some say the huge growth in the printing textile market, the increasingly affordable cost of direct-to-garment printers, and the explosion in online trading is fueling a murky underworld in India. Without disclosing the trade secrets, is it possible to counter the counterfeiting going on in Surat, Ludhiana, Tirupur, Kanpur, etc.? Do you?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. With counterfeiting and with trying to avoid being counterfeit, it's always Tom and Jerry kind of a thing. You're always trying to stay ahead of the counterfeiters, and they're always trying to chase you. So, but it needs to be a team effort. It needs to be a push from the end users, from the person buying it, as well as from the person converting or manufacturing the product. And printing, of course, plays a very big role as long as the industry is willing to accept it. Printing can play a very big role in anti-counterfeit features. Here, I hope I was able to demonstrate a product which is a good application of this. But with this, we are confident that with all the anti-counterfeit features, that we've put up a product which is 99% ahead of the curve. So for any counterfeiter to find all of these features and to replicate it, it would be very, very difficult. But again, it needs to be a push on all fronts.